ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्यक्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये ॐ नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यः ब्रह्मविद्यासम्प्रदायकर्तृभ्यः वंशर्षिभ्यः महद्भ्यः नमो गुरुभ्यः This Upanishad describes or analyzes the deep sleep state and seeks to give us the knowledge about the self, because in the deep sleep state, self or Atma is free from all identifications. Although it is true that in deep sleep state there is a darkness of ignorance, and therefore, unfortunately, we do not become enlightened in deep sleep state. Even though all there is Atma in the deep sleep state, everything else is merged in the cause or ignorance. But because of the darkness of ignorance, nothing is recognized. Meaning that in deep sleep state, all is there. There is myself. There I am non-dual. That's what the passage is also described. But there is no means of recognizing that. In the deep sleep state, there is experience of non-duality, but not the knowledge of non-duality, because the means of knowledge, or the instrument of knowledge, namely mind, is not present in deep sleep state. Therefore, we have the experience of non-duality, but not the knowledge of non-duality. Therefore, deep sleep state is presented as very close to the moksha, meaning that is the kind of state that we should deliberately create. In deep sleep, the identification of the body, gross body, and subtle body, we become free from those identifications by Ishvara scheme. But the causal body of the ignorance is there. In the waking state, we should similarly become free from identification of gross body, subtle body, and then recognize our true nature because we are awake. In deep sleep state, we do not have the mind to understand that experience of deep sleep. In deep sleep, we have experience of non-duality. At that time, we do not have the mind to recognize that experience. Therefore, in the waking state, we should create a state similar to deep sleep state when we also have the mind so that we can see our true nature. When all there is we are, the body, the mind is not there, in the sense that we become free from identification of the body and the mind. In sleep, it happens by Ishvara's arrangement that Ishvara has created this state of deep sleep for us, that the identification of the gross body goes away and that with the mind or subtle body also goes away. That is something that we need to do deliberately in the waking state. And then further, where in the deep sleep state, there is no knowledge because the means of knowledge, namely mind, is not there. In the waking state, we have the mind, and therefore, the experience of non duality that we have in deep sleep can be become the a similar situation can become the means of knowledge of non duality in the waking state. So we have the experience of non duality. Our Puja Swamiji always used to say, experience a dump. Because those days, this experience was a big thing, and meaning that you should have experience. But experience itself does not tell you anything. You have to understand the experience, which is what Vedanta does. Experience of Atma we always have. But now also we are all aware of ourselves because the self is self revealing, self shining, and therefore we cannot but be aware of ourselves. So therefore, it is not that we have to create an experience of Atma or create an awareness of Atma. We always have it because Atma, nature of Atma is self-revealing, self-conscious, self-awareness. But we have to recognize what happens now is that not only we are aware of Atma, we are also aware of the body, we are also aware of the sense organs, we are aware of the mind also. So we are aware of so many things, including Atma. But to recognize that the self is experienced as the subject, whereas the body, mind, senses are all experienced as object. Here, habitually we lump them together. And therefore, we judge ourselves as a self limited by this body, sense, mind. So that's when the Viveka is required. But here, the deep sleep experience is presented as a, a ground for understanding the true nature of ourselves. What it means that we should create a state similar to deep sleep state in the waking. And what is deep sleep state? When we are free from identification with body, sense organs, mind, intellect. That time there is this ignorance, and that is where we have to have the knowledge. That's only because we are aware in the waking state. Therefore, so much description is there of the deep sleep state. Not that that is moksha, Otherwise, we will all be liberated. But that is a state, more we understand that, more we understand what moksha is, and thus we can recreate the situation for ourselves and thus gain the knowledge of the self. So we read the passage 21. Tadva ase tat adichandaha apahata papma abhayam rupam. The deep sleep state, adichandaha, we are free from all desires. Why are we free from desires in the sleep state? Because desires are in mind, and because the mind is also sleeping, therefore there is no desire in deep sleep state. Apahata papma, free from all papa or evil. We become free from the papa and punya because papa, punya, etc. are all there in the mind or in the intellect, and we are free from the identification of the intellect also. Therefore, we are free from papa. It means punya also. Vedantis don't like punya also. Papa, of course, sin nobody likes. But Vedanta says that even virtue also is binding because virtue means you perform virtuous actions. You will also create that appropriate result and give you a higher birth, but it will give you birth nevertheless. If you perform vicious actions, then it will give us birth in hell. And if you perform virtuous actions, then also we'll get a birth in heaven. But we are still not free from the process of birth and death. And we want to become free from that. One way of describing moksha is freedom from the cycle of birth and death. Somebody says, Swami, what's wrong with birth? I want to be born. I don't want to stop being born because I enjoy myself. You think that you enjoy yourself. But in this state of what we call the waking state, there is a habitual identification of the body, and therefore I feel as limited as the body. So I cannot be free from a sense of limitation. As long as there is identification of the body, mind, etc., I cannot become free from sense of limitation. In that sense, deep sleep is a very good illustration where I am free from the identification of the body, mind, etc. So there is no sense of limitation in deep sleep state. There's nothing to limit me there, except that because of the darkness of ignorance, I don't have the benefit of that experience because I don't learn anything from that experience. The mind, which is a means of knowledge, also is not there, and therefore I do not learn that I am non-dual. In deep sleep, there is an experience of non-duality, but not the knowledge of non-duality. But that is the reason why the deep sleep state is presented here and described, so that an understanding of that state will give us an understanding of moksha, except for ignorance. So from deep sleep state, if we subtract ignorance, then what is moksha? You can't just, this is not an algebra that you subtract ignorance in that sense. But what I'm saying is that subtract ignorance from deep sleep state, and what you have is moksha. Therefore, deep sleep state is described in fair detail. So more we understand the non-duality, more we understand the freedom that is our nature, and thus more we understand what it is that we need to do to discover that nature of ourselves. So in the verse 21, there were a couple of last lines where it was brought to my attention that we did not. In the passage 21, the last sentence is Tadva asya etat atmakamam aptakamam atmakamam akamam rupam shokantaram. On the page number 10, very first passage, and the end of the second line in that passage, where Upanishad says, Tadva means Tadvai, Asya, Etat, Aptakamam, Atmakamam, Akamam, Rupam, Shokantaram. Did you able to find that? Okay. So this part was not discussed. That is why I just came back here. So there is experience of non-duality in deep sleep state. Is described as an experience where prajnena atmana samparishvakta, I embrace prajnatma, my true self. So jiva as though embraces prajnatma or limitless atma, and becomes lost, and therefore no more is aware of his limitation. The example is priya striya samparishvakta hai, just as a man who is embraced his dear wife and then forgets everything inside and outside and becomes one. So, how the two become one at that time, that is an example of two becoming one. Closest example that we have of two becoming one. So, right now, looks like there are two entities Jivatma, I am a limited self, and Prajnatma, Paramatma, Brahman, that is limitless self. Right now, I think that I am different from Brahman. I am different from Paramatma because it is my conclusion that I am a limited being. Therefore, the limitless self or Brahman is thought to be different from me. I am different. Brahman is different. I am different. Ishvara is different. So habitually we take all these dualities as real. And even though I feel different from Brahman, I strive to become one with Brahman. In all my pursuits in life or endeavors in life, I want to become limitless. Although my understanding of limitlessness is perhaps wrong, I think that by becoming wealthy, I'll become limitless. By becoming famous, I become limitless. By becoming powerful, this is what the world is doing. I think that by attaining all those material goals, the worldly goals, that I'll become free. Then nothing remains to be done for me. I think. But understand that the basic desire behind every pursuit is to become limitless. All that the human being wants is to become free. All that he wants is to become free from all limitations. He just wants to be limitless. That's what he loves. So, how do you love this limitlessness? And limitlessness can be there only when there is non duality. If I am different and you are different, then suddenly I exclude you and you exclude me. In that case, I can never be limitless. So, limitlessness necessarily means that it's an all inclusive state where no duality remains. Now, in waking state, we have to see that duality is false and non duality. Even though I experience duality everywhere, I think that you are different and I am different. This is what I think. But that is a conclusion and not an experience. Swamiji, we experience duality all the time. I experience the duality of that body with this body, that mind with this mind, but we do not experience duality of that self with this self, really. But that body and mind are equated to that self, and this body and mind are equal to this self, and therefore the difference between the body mind sense complex, that and this, is taken to be the difference between the self. I equate self or Atma with that body mind complex. I equate so called this Atma with this body mind sense complex and conclude that that self is different and this self is different. It's not our experience. Our experience that that body is different, this body is different, but we don't have experience that that self is different and this self is different. That is not our experience. The difference between the bodies is taken to be the difference between the self. Understand this is a very important thing. How this conclusion that I am different from the rest of the world, the rest of the world is different from me, and that is a big problem in our life. That's where we feel isolation, we feel exclusion, we feel all kinds of problems. But that duality or multiplicity existing at the level of body mind complex is habitually taken to be the multiplicity of the self. It is like this hall where maybe 1,000 mirrors are fitted here. And then imagine that every mirror is different of kind from other. One is a convex mirror, a concave mirror, different kinds of mirrors. Every mirror will show a different kind of reflection. One mirror will show me like this, other mirror will show me like that. Have you seen yourself in concave mirrors, in convex mirrors? We have seen that because in Ahmedabad there is a garden for children, Balavatika, for children. In that room there were huge mirrors, concave mirror, convex mirror, all kinds of mirrors. You stand in front of them, you look, and people laugh at themselves, because I know that's not real. If I did not know that what appears in that mirror is not real, then I think I become very fat, or I become, very thin. But since I know that what appears is mithya, so I can laugh. So there is in this Balavatika, there is a room. It must be there now also. My experience is from many, many years ago. Similarly also, every upadhi is like that mirror. Yourself looks different, of different form, different shape. But in reality, so I was saying that in this hall, if you fitted a variety of mirrors and you came and stood in the center, if there are 1,000 mirrors, there will be 1,000 swamis. And each mirror is different from the other. Therefore, there are different kinds of swamis. Not different number of Swamis, but different kind of Swamis. If I did not know that what appears in the mirror is myself, and I thought that what appears there are all different from me, then I would be scared. But here I come in and I laugh, looking at my different reflections, knowing that they are not real, this is called mithya. What appears to be there, but is not really there, is called mithya. So, similarly, also, so many mirrors are there. Each mirror reflects me. But because the shape of mirror is different, therefore my reflection. So I don't recognize that as my reflection. Some Swami looks fat and some Swami looks lean, and therefore I thought there are different Swamis. Similarly, also, I see in all these mirrors, what I am seeing is myself. But each mirror seems to show me of a different form. A man, woman is there, and so forth and so on. So I think they're all different from me. The mirrors are all different, but the one who is reflected is not different. So all mirrors are different. The self that is reflected in them is not different. But the difference in mirrors is automatically and habitually taken as difference in the image also. And then when I look at you, I think I'm looking at a different person, but I'm looking at myself in that mirror. So this is how all of this goes away in the deep sleep state. Here we have to do this work and recognize that even though I seem different, but really I am the self, there also self. All personalities are different. Some is sattvic personality, some rajas personality, some tamas personality. Sattvic personality, the person is very kind and compassionate. Rajas personality, the person is aggressive, go-getter. Tamas personality, the person is cruel. So this when it's cruelty there, aggressiveness there, and whatever it is there, is all in the personality. In the mirror, the person. And since I equate the person and personality, therefore, there is all this duality and all these kind of differences in my life. So this is what Upanishad wants to teach us. The reason of unhappiness in life is not that is a really reason. It is ignorance that is the reason for all the unhappiness in life. Not recognizing the reality. Not recognizing that in the apparent manyness there is real oneness. And that oneness is myself. And that is what Upanishad wants to teach in different ways. Therefore, deep sleep state is an experience of non-duality, where all the personalities are completely dissolved and therefore all there is the self. So that becomes a good illustration for us to understand what our true nature is. If I was an unhappy person, then I should remain unhappy in every situation. Swami, you're waking, so I'm always unhappy. In dream also, same thing comes. But how about deep sleep state? No unhappiness, nothing comes there. I'm still there. So in waking, I am there, unhappiness is there. In dream, I am there, unhappiness is there. In deep sleep, I am there, and unhappiness is not there. In Vedanta, they call it Anvaya Vyatirika, togetherness and separateness. So even if we just simply analyze or look at our life in totality and not confine ourselves just to waking state. So the reason why the Upanishad discusses three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep is that we have to learn from the other states as well, from dream and deep sleep also. Then only we can have a complete idea of ourselves. That is why this Upanishad discusses dream state in detail and the deep sleep state also in detail. And this last statement in verse 21 said, Tadvai asya etat aptakamam atmakamam akamam rupam shokantaram. At that time, the nature of the Atma is aptakamam. Apta means achieved. Ap means to get in this case. So aptakamam. Aptaha kamaha yena sa aptakama. One who has achieved all the desires. Apta. Atmakamam. Second word is Atmakamam. Atma eva kamaha. So one for whom all the kamas or desires have reduced to Atma. And third is Akamam. One who is free from all the kamanas. So this experience in deep sleep state, where I am aptakama, where all my desires are fulfilled. Deep sleep state, I have an experience of a state where all my desires are fulfilled. Why is it so? Because atmakam, because the object of desire has turned into Atma. If something becomes desirable when it's different from me. This flower will become an object of desire or potentially become an object of desire when it is different from me. And I look upon the whole world as different from me and myself different from the world. And I also feel myself lacking and wanting, and therefore so many things become desirable which promise me to become free from that lack or want. But when I realize that I'm a complete being and nothing to desire, I recognize that what is I, the self, the non-dual. So what was the object of desire is now turned into Atma. I thought that you are different and therefore you are object of desire. But I realize that it is I in that particular, in that costume. I alone is in all these various costumes. All these various mirrors are there, and I alone is reflected in all of them. When I recognize this fact, no, but I am different, Swamiji, you are different. How can I, you, and be one? You are a man, I'm a woman. How can that be one? But the mirrors are different. So reflections are different. But the one who is reflected is not different. So when we reduce this reflection into the images, then we see there is a one reflected in countless mirrors or countless manifesting, like when electricity functioning, the variety of bulbs and variety of color of bulbs and the different kind of lights also comes, but one electricity. So the one consciousness manifesting as life in all these countless living beings. If this becomes my knowledge, then the one thing that is acquired by me is Atma. If I recognize that you are all Atma only, then that means that I have acquired everything. As long as this is different from me, so long it remains an object of desire. When I recognize this is myself, where is it, Swami? This is not yourself. You're not a flower. You're not a pot. You're not a cloth. How do you say this is all me? So, what is this flower? Flower is, the flower shines in my awareness. The flower is dear to me. Flower has a name, and flower is a form. Asti bhati priyam rupam nama chetyam se panchakam. Many of you may not be familiar with what I am saying, but there are five aspects to this flower. One is that flower is. We cannot deny that. Is there a flower in my hand? They're laughing. How do you say it is there? Because you are aware of that. Is there? It shines in your awareness. And third statement I will make is that it is dear to you. No, Swami, I don't care for this flower. I don't like this color. The flower is asti. Flower shines in your consciousness, bhati, and flower is dear. Now that dear business is a little difficult. But everything is asti, bhati, and dear. No, no, Swamiji, I don't like this. But this has the potential of becoming dear when a transformation takes place in my mind. Right now, I have a specification of what is dear to me. What gives me happiness is dear to me, and therefore, this becomes dear to me if it gives me happiness. And it can give me happiness when it can fulfill all my requirements. But suppose my requirements become fewer and fewer and fewer and fewer, then more and more things will give me happiness. Understand this. Only few things today give me happiness because few things only can fulfill my requirements. It is not that this has not potential of giving happiness, but I deny that happiness on account of making demands on this thing. Hey, you should be green color. You should have 75 petals. You should be 3 inches long, etc., etc. But if my demand and what this is coincide, then this becomes the object of my love. Now, this poor thing cannot change. So, what has to change? My demand. If my demand becomes equal to what this is, then this becomes the object of like. So, if my demand reduces, my expectations reduce, what I like, what is beautiful. If my expectation of what is beautiful reduces, then more and more things will be beautiful. You understand what I'm saying? If I think that only this pink color is beautiful, then this poor color is not beautiful. But if my sense of beauty extends to more and more colors and more things will be included in what is beautiful, if every color is I like every color, then everything is beautiful. So less demanding mind becomes more beautiful, more number of things become beautiful. You follow? It is not that thing is not beautiful, therefore I have a problem. There is a problem. It is because I have set conditions of what beautiful is, therefore there is a problem. Otherwise, what is beautiful? If I reduce my conditions and demands of what it should be, then more and more things will include in my area of beauty. Suppose I am totally non-demanding. I am totally accepting. In that case, everything is beautiful. It is not that this is not beautiful, but I deny the appreciation of beauty because of my demands. And less demands I make, I find more and more things that are beautiful. No demand, everything is beautiful. What is beautiful? When Swami said, what is Ishvara? I said, what is beautiful? What is lovable? Is it or is it not? All that is required is not for this thing to change, to become beautiful, for me to become less and less demanding. Then I'll discover the beauty which is inherently there, and I become totally non demanding. Everything is beautiful. What is Brahman, what is beautiful, what is lovable, etc. etc. So understand that it is not changing the world, but it is changing myself by way of letting go of my demand or kama. So demand or desire is called kama. And I realize that this kama or the desire really is not a legitimate thing. Who is desiring? Who is the one who thinks that is lacking and wanting is desiring? But that I am lacking or wanting is only a conclusion on my part. Upanishad says that you are full, you are complete. If that was my knowledge and there is no lack or want in me, in which case there will be no desire in me. Meaning that if I knew what my true nature is, there will be no scope for any desire, you follow? Therefore, I become akamaha, meaning what? Free from all desires. Because aptakama, all my desires are fulfilled. How, Swamiji? Because I realize that what is myself, that I am one non-dual, nothing is different from me, and therefore I includes everything. Right now, I exclude everything because I confine myself to this body. When I recognize my true dimension, then more and more things will become inclusive. And when I recognize my true dimension, I realize that everything is included. That I right now only includes this body. But ultimately, when I recognize the true nature of I realize that it includes everything. Nothing remains separate from me. So nothing remains an object, nothing remains unacquired. An object of desire is unacquired. If nothing remains acquired, nothing remains an object of desire. You follow? Aptakama, because I have acquired everything by knowledge. It's by a process. That's what we are trying. But we are trying to acquire everything, to achieve that goal. Upanishad says, look, that goal is achieved by knowing what you are. So when I recognize that, I include everything. I'm not confined to the body. I'm consciousness that illumines everything, that sustains everything, that includes everything. Aptakama. Then everything is acquired. Is it not so? So Upanishad invites us to fulfill our desires by knowing rather than by doing things. Right now we are seeking to acquire everything, seeking to become everything, because that's all the process that we know. The first look at who you are. Who is trying to acquire everything? You are not that limited, helpless self that you think you are. Therefore, here the nature of Atma is being elaborately described to recognize that I am not confined to this body, I am not confined to the mind. I'm the one that illumines the body, illumines the mind, enlivens the body. And I that enlivens this body also enlivens that body, and therefore I enliven everything. So I am the consciousness that enlivens everything. Bhati, I am Asti. And that limitless is what I love, Priyam. So when we recognize the essential nature of this Asti, Bhati, Priyam, of this also is Asti, Bhati, Priyam, and something that I call ugly, which I tweet my nose. If I analyze what it is, Asti Bhati Priyam. In that form, whatever there is in this universe is Asti Bhati Priyam. All we need is let go our attachment to or our preoccupation with the form and name. Every name and form is a vehicle for manifesting Asti Bhati Priyam. I'm stuck with the vehicle and ignore the Asti Bhati Priyam because no, this flower is should have more petals or different color or this kind of demand they place upon things. But if I accept it as it is, if my relationship with this object is non-demanding, then I discover that this is beautiful. And that applies to anything. It's not that things have to become beautiful, it is that I should learn to become non demanding, more accepting, more appreciating. And so they say, hey, Ishvara has created everything. Ishvara is a great architect. What he creates has to be beautiful. He cannot create anything that is less than perfect. So whatever he has created is beautiful. So if you look at everything from standpoint of Ishvara, then a little limited, narrow standpoint is given up. Tadvaste tat aptakamam, atmakamam, akamam. When I realize that all these objects are nothing other than myself only, then they are already acquired because it is self. Atmakamam, because I alone manifested everything. Akamam, then there is no desire in me because all desires are already fulfilled. So it is by knowledge that Upanishad invites us to fulfill our desires because it's there. The way you are trying to fulfill your desire by acquiring things will never work out because how much can you acquire? You'll get exhausted in the process of acquiring. But recognize your true nature, then you recognize true nature of everything. That's the beauty. By knowing myself, I know everything because the self alone is everything. By that knowledge of non-dual self, everything becomes acquired, everything is so aptakama, atmakama, akama, then become free from desires. Akama rupa shokantaram, where there's no desire, there's no lack, there's no want, then there's no grief. Shoka means grief. The grief is a result of my lacking or wanting being. That whenever I look upon myself lacking or wanting being, I become unhappy. As I said, I am the source of my unhappiness. Whenever I find myself lacking or wanting, then I become unhappy. No, Swami, this person makes me unhappy. We think so. But that person is a knack of revealing that lacking self from me. Some people, uncanny knack. So an old friend of mine, I meet him after I don't know how many years now, 80 years or whatever, 75 years. Swamiji, remember that you failed in the third grade? And he tells me, an old friend. I hate him. I don't like that fellow. Because he reminds me of a self that I hate. I don't like that failed self. So there are many things in myself also which I want to, I don't want to be aware of. I don't want to confront. And if somebody forces me to confront them, why, when can you make me unhappy? When you are able to invoke that self from me which I do not like. The person who failed in third grade, I don't like. And by reminding me, then you invoke that person. I don't like that, but then I don't like you because you did that. In fact, my dislike is for my own self. I don't have that viveka. And because you became instrumental in revealing that self, I don't like that, but then I don't like you. I don't have that viveka that really what I don't like is myself. I think I don't like you because you have a knack of revealing that self. So when we don't like people, it's always because a person has a knack of bringing out that unhappy or undesirable self from me, which I want to shy away from, and you bring it out. I don't like you, but in fact, I don't like the self. So that is because of this identification of the body. When that is not there, then I have no question of disliking myself. So shoka is there when I find myself lacking and wanting. I realize that lack and want belongs to the body mind complex and not the I. The I is always free from all limitations. There is no lack and want in me. There is no now scope for any shoka or grief. I am the cause of grief. When I find myself lacking and wanting, and that happens because I look upon this body as myself. When I see myself as I am, then I see that I am free from all lack or shokantaram. Then this knowledge makes me free from all shoka or grief. So all our desires, everything can be fulfilled just by knowing the self. That is what these words tell us here. And we should take that seriously, by the way. Unfortunately, after listening to all of this, we go out and engage in the same kind of stuff. Same rat race, same running around, same acquiring, same becoming, same things. You may not. You're all enlightened people, but then, you know, most people do. So all of this is meant to help us change our life so that our values will change. What we do may not change, but the reason why we do may change. Our life may remain the same. We don't have freedom to change that, but the motivation will change because now the goal is not to acquire something unacquired, but to recognize what is already acquired. So, aptakamam, atmakamam, akamam rupam, shokantaram. Rupam, the nature of Atma is free from all shoka or grief because I am a complete being. Or because I am non dual, therefore there is nothing to desire, everything is already acquired, etc. So, those words were not discussed, so then we took the opportunity to address them also. Okay. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashyakrito Vande Bhagavanto ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणमूर्तये नमः ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ